For 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has been this absolute monument to human ingenuity. It's a feat of engineering so advanced, it almost seems impossible. So today, we're going to break down exactly how they pulled it off, tackling one incredible problem at a time. All right, let's get right into it. And we're going to start with a modern mystery. Not too long ago, researchers sent this tiny robotic camera deep into a narrow, unexplored shaft. It drilled through a stone door that had been sealed shut since the pyramid was first built. And on the other side, it saw something no one had laid eyes on for 4,500 years. But hold that thought. First, we need to understand the sheer, mind-boggling scale of what we're even talking about. The total weight of the Great Pyramid is a staggering 6 million tons. I mean, that's a number so big, it's hard to even picture. This thing has survived thousands of years of earthquakes and storms without shifting an inch. Now, here's where it gets really wild. Take the Burj Khalifa, right? The tallest building in the world today. It weighs about 500,000 tons. That means the Great Pyramid weighs as much as 12 Burj Khalifas. 12 of them. Just an absolutely incredible amount of material. And that material came in the form of 2.3 million individual stone blocks. And each one had to be precisely cut and placed. Many of these blocks weighed several tons, and some of the biggest ones, they weighed as much as 50 tons. And just to give you a sense of its footprint, the base covers 13 acres. Okay, what does that even mean? Picture this. You could fit 9 entire football fields inside the base of this one building. It's literally a man-made mountain. So how do you even begin a project this huge? Well, you start at the bottom. The very first challenge was creating a foundation that was absolutely perfectly level and aligned. Think about this for a second. The Great Pyramid is aligned to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with almost perfect accuracy. But the ancient Egyptians didn't have magnetic compasses, so how on earth did they do it? The answer, believe it or not, was written in the stars. First, of course, they had to find solid bedrock that could support all that weight. But then came the brilliant part. They used the pole stars to find a perfect east-west and north-south line. It was simple, super effective, and incredibly precise, all without any modern tools. Okay, so you've got your alignment. Now comes the next massive problem. How do you level a 13-acre patch of rocky ground? If you're off by even a little bit, the whole structure becomes unstable. Today, we just use lasers, but they had to get way more creative. They used water. The theory is that the engineers dug a whole grid of trenches across the site, filled them up with water, and then marked the water level. And since water always finds a perfect level, all they had to do was chisel away every bit of rock sticking up above that line. And boom, a massive, nearly perfect foundation. With the foundation set, the next challenge was just immense. It was time to quarry, cut, and transport 2.3 million stone blocks. So, the main building material was limestone. But how do you cut it into these perfect rectangular blocks using only Bronze Age technology? We're not talking about small bricks here. Some of these things were absolute monsters. Well, here's the key. Their metallurgy was way ahead of its time. The Egyptians knew that pure copper was way too soft to cut limestone, so they created an alloy by adding arsenic, which made their chisels much, much harder. Then it was just brute force. Armies of workers hammering these chisels for hours and hours to shape a single block. And they didn't just quarry these stones next door either. The really high-quality limestone came from a place called Tura, 250 kilometers away. The logistics were insane. They had to cut them, load them onto massive ships, sail them down the Nile River, and then unload them at Giza with huge teams of laborers. Just to give you one last sense of the weight they were dealing with, a single 50-ton granite block, and there were a lot of them, weighs about the same as 3 passenger buses. Now imagine trying to move that without any engines or wheels. This brings us to probably the most famous question in the history of the pyramids. Once the stones were on site, how in the world did they get them all the way to the top? Right. They needed to lift these multi-ton blocks almost 500 feet into the air. They had no cranes, no pulleys, no modern machinery. All they had was human muscle and some incredible engineering. Now, there are 2 leading theories on this. The first is that they built a long, gently sloping ramp that actually spiraled around the outside of the pyramid as it got taller. The second idea is a very long, straight ramp, maybe with switchbacks like a mountain road, built up against one side. Either way, it would have taken armies of workers dragging those massive stones up on sleds. But the challenges didn't stop with limestone. Deep inside the pyramid, in the king's chamber, the engineers were dealing with an even tougher material. That's right, the inner chambers, the most critical parts of the whole pyramid, were built from solid granite. And granite is an incredibly hard rock, way, way tougher than limestone. Those copper arsenic chisels that worked on the outer blocks, they would have been totally useless here. So how did they cut it so perfectly? The answer is one of the most brilliant low-tech solutions you can imagine: a toothless copper saw. The saw itself didn't actually do the cutting. Workers would drag it back and forth while constantly pouring an abrasive, like sand with quartz in it, into the groove. It was the friction from the sand that slowly, painstakingly ground its way through the granite. And this process was unbelievably slow. Experts think that cutting through just one large block of granite this way could have taken as long as 4 months of continuous, backbreaking labor. This wasn't just engineering. It was a testament to sheer human persistence. They solved one seemingly impossible problem after another with pure ingenuity. And yet, even after all of that, some really big questions are still out there. Which brings us all the way back to that little robot camera. After showing this level of genius, this incredible dedication to precision and problem solving, what did they consider so important that it needed to be sealed away for 4,500 years? Well, that is a question that archaeologists are still desperately trying to answer.